Look at this. What a nice full room. Hey, everybody. We're about to get started. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping things. One, if your cell phone is not in silent mode, or your iPad or Samsung Galaxy Tab or Kindle or whatever, put it in silent mode, please. Two, GDC and also session presenters really appreciate seeing the results of the surveys that get sent out after these. We really do review those and see what people are thinking and try to think about it for what we're making next year. So please fill those out whenever you have a spare moment afterwards. Third thing is, we're probably gonna go, we're starting a little bit late to try to make sure everybody's filling the room. We're gonna go over a little bit, but if there's if there's questions afterwards, we're gonna vacate the room, move down the hall a little bit, and then time permitting for Yong and Nicki, we'll be able to answer questions afterwards out there. All right. My name is Wes Adams. I am from Team Unity. At Unity, we kind of recognize that you want to have a great engine and great creation tools, but most games today are being run as live games or have some kind of need for a back-end infrastructure beyond just what you're using historically to create the thing your player is actually seeing and interacting with day to day. That's where Unity Gaming Services come in. That's the side of the business that I'm on. It helps people run the foundational back-end infrastructure for their game. And then also we've got a bunch of player engagement tools so you can understand what's happening in your game and also provide the best possible experience for people. I am very, very excited about this session today. This is almost exactly the prototypical example of what we're trying to do at Unity. How can we help small studios scale up to really big, ambitious projects and just, I don't know, run something amazing like the mobile game of the year, which is Marvel Snap. So I'm really excited. Yong and Nicki have some really, really cool stuff to share with you today, and I'm gonna hand it over to them so that they can do that. Thank you so much for coming.
Hello? Okay, great, it's working. Awesome. All right, so I'm the guy over on this side with the blue shirt. I cut my hair. That's my pandemic ponytail, I guess. Before I start, wow, thank you so much for joining me and Nicki. You know, when two producers decided to give a talk at GDC, I really wasn't sure what the response was gonna be. I really think the art and the science of making games is really exciting, and I'm so glad that y'all are joining us so we can share our story with you. So, who am I? My name is Yong Wu. I'm the Chief Production Officer at Second Dinner. I'm also one of the co-founders. What does that mean? It all sounds really fluffy. It means that I'm in charge of the development team, the project, the team's health and management of the team. So before this crazy adventure, I had the privilege to work from some of the industry's best, working about 10 years at Blizzard Entertainment, where I got to work on titles like StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, and Hearthstone. And Nicki is the very first producer who joined our team. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicki. I'm a senior producer on the Marvel Snap team, and I joined the team about 4 years ago, and I'm mostly focused on supporting all of our art, audio, and new content coming into Marvel Snap, including all of the balance changes that I know you all love and are 100% aligned with. Before joining Second Dinner, I was at Blizzard for about 7 years. I worked on a variety of teams over there, ranging from QA to business intelligence, as well as esports. So that's what brings me here today. Yong, do you want to take a quick selfie with the audience?
Okay, let's
We'd love to take a selfie with all of you. This is my first GDC, so this is a very special moment for me. Everybody say snap!
Snap!
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, before we jump into the actual talk, I just want to take a moment to talk about what is Marvel Snap for anyone who may not know. Marvel Snap is a digital collectible card game that's available on mobile and early access PC. It features the amazing heroes of the Marvel multiverse, including villains, and players hop into a game to battle for dominance over the 3 locations. We have tons of different locations from all over the Marvel universe for players to experience. And one of my favorite parts about Marvel Snap is we have this huge collection of cards that players get to collect, and including variant art. All right. And it's one of my favorite parts of getting to work on Marvel Snap, and we're going to dig into the art specifically later on in the talk because it's really cool seeing these cards come to life. As many of you know, we soft launched the game last May in 2022, and we globally launched the game in October of last year. We were very fortunate to have millions of players come join us, and they loved Marvel Snap just as much as we loved working on Marvel Snap. And we were very fortunate to be nominated for so many awards, as well as winning Best Mobile Game of the Year. So thank you so much, everybody, for playing Marvel Snap and being on this journey with us. We're very grateful. So today, we're going to talk about how we started out as a two-person studio in 2018. We have a photo here of Ben Brode and Hamilton Chu, who founded Second Dinner in a room above Ben Brode's garage, and how we went from this experience in 2018 to launching the best mobile game of 2022. There was a lot packed into this adventure that we're excited to share with you today. And so I think the obvious thing is that it wasn't just Ben Brode and Hamilton Chu who launched Marvel Snap. It was actually a team of 50 people who helped launch this incredible game when we soft launched last May. And so we're very grateful to be up here and sharing more about our stories with you all today. And so to kick us off, Yong is going to talk about how we got started.
Thank you so much, Nicki. You know, we talked about globally launching the game last year to a lot of success. I was actually the on-call producer for the first week when we globally launched. What does that mean? It means when things go wrong, I get called. So millions of people were downloading and installing the game. And I have to tell you, Marvel Snap launch was the most boring launch I've ever had. Thank you. There's a little bit of a plant there. Thank you, Ken Eric. He's our Associate Director of Design. Yeah, I mean, so 0 on-call incidents, and I got to sleep through all 7 nights. So I don't know about you folks, but that is unheard of for me in my career. Millions of people playing, 0 on-call incidents. And we did it with one of the smallest teams I've ever been part of. And the thing I'm most proud of is that we're able to do all that while being very disciplined about working sustainably and always remembering to have fun. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about our story and how we were able to make that happen. Of course, we're talking about how this wasn't just a 2-person show, and this is not just a 50-people show either. All right. To globally launch a game like Marvel Snap, we need some of the best partners in the world. We can't do it alone. So first, I want to talk about Nuverse, who is our amazing publishing partner. It was really important to us when we were looking for a publisher to find somebody who has the same level of global aspiration as we do, and the scale and depth of resource to back up that aspiration. So Nuverse was very committed to the global success of Marvel Snap from the very beginning. Here's a picture of the Irvine office. Nuverse opened up just to support Marvel Snap, and they moved right next building to us. It's allowing us to really work in tandem, really close together. And also, these are pictures of some of hundreds of Nuverse folks all over the world who make customer support, community management, QA, marketing, and many other key aspects of publishing and operating the game possible. So it's not just a 50-person show. I realize it's already a bait and switch. I'm sorry. And a key strategy to keeping the development studio small and still be able to accomplish all the things that we did was to team up with some of industry's best technical and infrastructure partners. Our strategy is keep the team focused on making amazing player experiences. And for everything else, partner with others. As an example, partnering with Unity and leveraging the engine and many of their operational services allowed Second Dinner to get so much more done faster with a smaller team. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. We're going to get concrete. There's a good reason we're here at a Unity-sponsored session. They're not just being nice, although they're very nice folks. All right, enough preamble. Let's get back to our story. You have 2 people in a garage dreaming of making one of the best mobile games of the year. Where do you even start? At the heart of how we make games at Second Dinner is this: build something playable fast and play with it as much as possible. Within days of us deciding to make a Marvel IP-based collectible card game, we immediately got to prototyping. Here's a bunch of scribbles on the back of Ben Brode's old business cards, and we immediately got to playing with them. Brode recalls how embarrassingly unfun some of these very early paper prototypes were, and how humbling that experience was. Can you imagine 2 people in a garage with a bunch of scribbles, and it's like a really unfun game? So why go through all that? We build something playable fast, we play with them. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake there. Because playing with something immediately makes you so much smarter about the thing you're playing with. And you need to get smarter as fast as you can so you know what to build next. Within weeks of starting the build, play, get smarter cycle, you can already start seeing something that can be recognized as Marvel Snap come to the surface. The doubling cube that you may be familiar with is represented by the dice over there on the side, and you start seeing random location mechanics starting to come together. Build it, play with it, be embarrassed by it, that's okay. Get smarter. We made it easy to come up with new ideas. You could print it out, so each of us can quickly make decks out of the cards and play with them. By building, playing a lot, we were getting much, much smarter about where the fun can be with Marvel Snap. At the start of my career, the project would have had to stay in this state for quite a bit longer. Right? We would have had to go find an engineering team, go maybe build a card game engine. But the year is 2023. With amazing tools like Unity, you don't need a big team to get going. You all know this. Game development is much more democratized than ever. So in our case, using Unity, one developer, in this case Ben Brode, over 2 weeks, led us to this prototype. Right? This was super lightweight. No game rules are enforced. That's obviously complicated. No network support. Brode doesn't know anything about network programming. That's fine. But it allowed 2 people to sit in front of each other and play Marvel Snap on the iPad, kind of like a virtual tabletop. And from this moment on, we started doing all of our playtests in digital form. We started getting much smarter about what kind of digital card game Marvel Snap could be. Making the build, play, get smarter cycle as tight and fast as possible was the biggest priority for us. We designed our prototype so that you could quickly make changes in Unity, push the change to source control, wire up the CI/CD, continuous integration deployment, leverage Unity Cloud Build, automatically generate iOS and Android builds, which then was easily deployable and playable on our phones and devices. Within moments of coming up with new ideas, we could build it, we could play with it, and get smarter quickly. For this loop to be effective, we have to prioritize getting smarter over getting it right. We need to acknowledge that at the start of anything, you just don't know enough to get it right. You're guaranteed to get it wrong, so why worry about it? We need to focus on getting smarter. And to get smarter, we need to have a team environment where people can try things, are encouraged to try things, where it's safe to make mistakes and fail. Because making mistakes is how you learn. We had an unspoken rule. If you're wondering about something, if we found ourselves arguing about something for more than 15 minutes, instead of wasting all that time and emotional energy, just think back to all these meetings you might have with your colleagues, or maybe you have these arguments within your own head. Take all that emotional energy and time. Don't waste it. Just try it. Right? Take that time and energy to try it. How many cards should you be able to play on each location? 2? 4? 9? I can see some of you already start having some opinions in your eyes. We had a lot of discussions about this. It's like, and our thought was just try it. Here's a screenshot of us trying 9 cards per location. It sounded good when we were talking about it. But when we held this build in our hands, on our phone, it was immediately obvious that the cards were way too small. The iconic heroes and villains of the Marvel multiverse was the size of a postage stamp. And from game mechanics side, there were just too many cards interacting with each other, making the game unnecessarily complex. The moment we held this build in our hand, and by the second game we played, it was very obvious to us that 9 is too many. Here's a personal passion of mine. It didn't work out, but I was sure passionate about it. I really wanted to see how the game would feel with vertical placement of locations instead of horizontal placement. There's something interesting to me about what we can do with the visuals when the cards are facing off against each other from left to right. It's like a lot of ideas in my head about how awesome that could be. Again, Brod heard me out a little bit, and he just said, look, let's just try it. When we held it in our hands, it crystallized very quickly many problems with this approach. It was hard to play cards to the middle and top location one-handed. They're just too far away from your hand. It's also not obvious if you're the player on the left or on the right. If you're right-handed, you will naturally want to play the card to the right side of the board. If you're left-handed, you will want to play the card to the left side of the board. Instead of arguing about if horizontal or vertical is better, we set ourselves up so we can just try it. And again, once you have the build in your hand, the truth is in the build. We need to be smart about how we set ourselves up. So it's time and effort effective to try things. We're not talking about just hacking your way through things. You need to set yourself up so that trying new things can be time and effort effective. Figuring out how to do that is critical to moving fast in a sustainable way. So, by the time it was December 2018, and 5 founding members, it's depressing how much younger I look in that picture, but I'll ignore that. So when we moved into our first actual office, it was a tiny 1,000 square foot office where you had to walk outside of the building to go to the bathroom. I really missed that office. Using Unity with 5 developers over 4 months, building, playing, getting smarter every day, got us to this build. Our art director, Jamaro, started doing some temp art passes. The game is fully networked, so we can play naturally on our phone. We didn't have to be in front of each other anymore. Actually, one of my favorite things to do was we would go get Starbucks together, and we could play each other in the car. It's always a great way to do play tests. And the game was starting to enforce the rule of the game. This is not just a virtual tabletop. You can squint now and already start seeing the game we released 4 years later. So we go from a bunch of scribbles to a demoable game by the end of 2018. By this time, our contract with Marvel gets finalized, and we secure a global launch window of 2022. Imagine 5 people sitting in a tiny office wondering, how are we going to get from here to millions of people playing our game? It's terrifying. We talk about how we got smarter about figuring out where the fun is for Marvel Snap, the game. Build something playable, play with it a lot, get smarter. Well, at Second Dinner, we apply this iterative mindset in all things we do. If we want to figure out how we're going to global launch a game, just try it. Try launching a game as quickly as possible, operate it as much as you can, focus on learning and getting smarter about launching and operating the game. What do I mean by that? Starting in 2019, once we had the demoable build in hand, every 7 to 8 months, we launched our game to a growing player base. And we operated them 30 to 60 days at a time. So we can get smarter about what it means to launch and operate Marvel Snap. And integrate that live ops learning into our day-to-day development. We call these friends and family. We started out by inviting a lot of friends and family. I guess we only had 30 friends. It's kind of sad. And by the time we got to the last friends and family, we made a lot more friends. We had about 2,000 people by the time we got to the 5th friends and family. The key point here was that every iteration of friends and family, we get smarter and we get closer to how we actually want to launch and operate when we go live. These were dry runs. All right, so Nicki joined us right before Friends and Family started kicking off, before the first Friends and Family, and she was responsible for getting all of this going. Nicki, tell us about your experience.
All right. So before I jump into how to run these playtests and how we got started, I want to paint a picture for all of you. I had been working at Blizzard for 7 years when I decided to start my adventure at Second Dinner, and I was the 9th person to join the company. And all the folks who were already there were these amazing veterans of the game industry. Like, these were the folks that designed and launched Hearthstone. To say I was intimidated was an understatement. I had like the worst imposter syndrome I had ever had in my career. I was like, what am I doing here? Are they gonna like find me out at some point? Like, can I blend in long enough to like fake it till I make it? And when Yong started going over some of my first projects with me, he said, hey, I really need your help getting ready for our first Friends and Family playtest. I was like, for sure, Yong, I got you, no problem. And over on the side, I was like, I don't know how to do this. What is a Friends and Family playtest? How do we make this happen? And so it was a really good learning moment for me, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, like joining a new team or starting a brand new project where the future in front of you is kind of vague and blurry. It can be really overwhelming. And so I think leaning on that build experience and learn from it model that we were using all across Second Dinner was super helpful for me to get our Friends and Family playtests up and running and successful. So some of the first stuff that I kind of had to figure out was, what are the goals for these Friends and Family? What are we really trying to get out of it? These playtests at a surface level are valuable to get player feedback. From outside of the company, we were playing the game every day together and giving each other feedback, but it's very valuable to get feedback from players directly. On top of that, though, as Yong was mentioning, it also gives the team that practice to start building a muscle memory for what it would be like to operate the game once it was globally live. So some of the first stuff we started doing, you'll see a whiteboard here on the left-hand side, has our very first run book. If there's bugs or issues that come up during our Friends and Family, even though it's only 30 playtesters, what are we going to do? Are we going to escalate issues outside of work hours, or are we going to wait for business hours? And we started building these rule sets and workflows that we were excited to kind of iron out and foolproof before we globally launched the game. Something else that we had to do as an extremely small studio was figure out how to get all of our playtesters to NDA'd. We were a small team. We had never written NDAs before, and we had one lawyer that we could talk to, but they're very expensive to talk to. So we're like, oh, let's try writing an NDA ourselves and then reviewing it with these lawyers. So there's so much to iron out and figure out for the initial Friends and Family playtest. In addition to that, one of the big goals that we wanted to focus on was figuring out how we were going to communicate with our players. And so for the very first Friends and Family, we just used email. It was very low friction, very straightforward for us. And fortunately, because we were using Unity to build our game, we could easily grab a Unity Cloud Build link to just email out to our players and say, hey, Kate, come check out the game. Come check out the latest patch. And we could constantly iterate, improve the game, gather feedback, fix bugs, and send out a new link with all of the latest and greatest content. It worked really well when we had about 30 people participating. But as Yong mentioned, we continued to grow that audience, and so email became less sustainable for us. So we said, oh, why don't we go to Slack? We were already using Slack internally, so it seemed really seamless for us to just move over to Slack. It would be really easy to like copy pictures of feedback or bugs, transition it over to our work Slack, and get jamming on that feedback. And that worked really well too, but what we really wanted to focus on was not just the ease of communication, but getting closer to the tools that we would be using when we globally launched Snap. We knew we wouldn't be managing our Snap community in Slack. So we said, we are ultimately going to end up in Discord. So why don't we use Discord for our third friends and family as a way to start building that muscle and routine for engaging with players in Discord? It was super valuable for us to do this at this point in development because our team had grown quite a bit by this point, and so everyone got to be in the Discord along with all of our playtesters and start learning how to engage with the community. I think for a lot of developers at Second Dinner, this was their first time like being face-to-face with players, asking them questions about their feedback, getting to the heart of what they were really looking for, how to improve the game, digging into bugs a little more closely. We got to kind of formalize more of our communications. You'll see some pictures here of like, hey, we celebrated, and we actually have art and assets saying we wrapped up a playtest. It was really exciting for the team. It was like a very special moment and a milestone for us going into that third friends and family. And we wanted to continue to improve and iterate from there. So on top of Discord, we said by our fourth friends and family, we wanted to improve our bug tracking. And so we started using a tool called Backtrace that really unlocked our potential to better understand the bugs, exceptions, or issues that our players were facing. So no longer did they just have to write out a bug description in Discord for us. We had automated bug reporting inside of Marvel Snap. So as our players were playing, especially because we had such a large audience by this point, exceptions were automatically tracked, sent to our team. It had photos, it had client information, so we could troubleshoot so much better, meaning we could set ourselves up for success to globally launch the game with as little bugs as possible because we were already practicing this behavior. We knew we wanted to use Backtrace when we globally launched, so it was great to get the team like really familiar with it before we were even launching. In addition to Backtrace, one of the other tools we knew we really needed was a way to communicate with players directly in the game. So only so many folks will join us in Discord, which is awesome. We love our Discord community. But we also wanted a way to be able to let folks know what's going on inside the game itself. And so we worked on finding a tool called Braze, as well as one called Helpshift, which is our customer service tool. Braze was extremely powerful for us. And just like before, we grabbed Braze and Helpshift and got those hooked up in some of our early friends and family playtests so that we could build that muscle memory again and start to experience what it was like using those tools. Braze was awesome. It unlocked the ability for us to highlight new content on our carousel on the main menu. We got to add news, videos, or other updates for our players inside our news tab. It also unlocked the ability for us to send push notifications to players to let you know when there's a new patch or new cards coming in. And so we were able to iron out all the kinks and issues before we were global. This was so key. And you'll keep hearing this throughout the rest of our talk as well, that it was just very important to kind of have that global experience as early as possible, so it just felt like another day once we ultimately globally launched. So in addition to learning how to communicate with our players when we run a playtest, we also really wanted to make sure we knew how we were going to be operating and delivering the game to our players. It's one thing to build an amazing game, it's another thing to actually get that game out to everybody. And so early on, you're really focused on finding the fun in your game and figuring out what other nooks and crannies you want to explore with a game like Marvel Snap. But we knew from very early on that we were going to have an incredibly high-fidelity, art-dense game. And that meant it was potentially a very large build size we had to get to our players. So we knew immediately we wanted to leverage a lot of the great tools that Unity offers, such as the addressable system, to start packaging up all of the artwork contained in Marvel Snap early on so that we could stream that to our players in a really accessible way. It was very helpful to have all of these built-in Unity tools to start integrating with immediately. So for example, in our first, second, and third Friends and Family playtest, we started putting more and more of our art content into the addressable system. We started out with all of our cards. We eventually added all of our locations and got all of the art in the game hooked up in this system so that we could ultimately stream all of these assets to players on demand when they needed them the most. This was really critical for us because it's very important to have a small app size when players go to download your app for the first time. It allows them to get into the game faster and get hooked on playing Marvel Snap, and then we can stream them those other assets later once they need them. We only need them to have the most important first stuff when they jump into the game for the first time. So having the addressable system in place early on during our Friends and Family really allowed the team to focus on providing that excellent experience once we made it to global. We continue to use Unity Cloud Build Link, as I mentioned before, to be able to seamlessly send out new builds to our players and get them playing. And so we continue to iterate on this as well. We knew we needed a CDN solution, which is a cloud delivery network. This is a way for us to be able to stream those assets, as I mentioned, to our players. And so there's a lot of options out there, but we knew we wanted to partner with Unity for this. We were already using their tool to build our game, as well as leveraging the addressable system, and their cloud content delivery paired perfectly with addressables. So this was great for us to transition to in our fourth Friends and Family playtest, because it meant we could really test out streaming the game to our players. And it was so exciting because the build size shrunk like considerably. So instead of being over gigabytes that players would have to download the first time they started playing Marvel Snap, we got it down to megabytes. And this was just our fourth Friends and Family. We had several more to go where we could continue to optimize the game and make it an even better experience for our players. And one of the other things that we wanted to practice was actually like uploading the game to the store so that players could pull from the Google Beta Play Store as well as Test Flight. This was great for our team because we got to practice what it meant to do submission. So no longer could we just email a build link to somebody, which was very convenient for all of our first few Friends and Family, but we actually wanted to practice what it was like to get a build packaged up, submit it to the store, and have players download it that way because that's how people would experience it in global. So again, it was building that muscle memory. So the team was super familiar with all of the processes we would need to be executing on to globally launch Marvel Snap. So, in addition to running those playtests as one of my first projects on the second dinner team, I was like, all right, I think I've got a groove. This first Friends and Family is really shaping up. Things are looking awesome. What more could Yong send my way? And Yong was like, hey, Nicki, welcome to the team. So excited to have you here. I need you to make 1,000 assets by 2022. From very early on in Marvel Snap, we knew we wanted thousands of amazing pieces of art for Marvel Snap. We didn't want to just be any collectible card game. We wanted to be the collectible card game that dug into the Marvel multiverse. There are so many characters to explore and so many variations of these characters, both from an art and costume perspective, that we wanted to dig into. So when Yong came to me and said, hey, let's make 1,000 of these, I was like, whoa, that's a lot of assets. All right. We can do this. And again, I was intimidated, and I was like, how are we going to do this? I turned to our art director, Jamaro, and I was like, how are we going to do this? And we followed that same model. We were like, let's build a target. Let's experience what it's like to build just one of those assets and learn from that experience. And that's exactly what we did. We built our first target. This was the very first piece of art that we made for Marvel Snap. This is Wolverine, as many of you probably know. This is the very first draft of Jamaro starting to jam on what our art style could be, what we maybe wanted to consider for Snap as we were figuring out how these characters would be coming to life in our game. We continued to iterate and refine. We got to this really like high fidelity, very painterly style. The team was really excited about this. It was a really unique take on Wolverine. And we were like, this is awesome. So I went to Jamaro and I was like, hey, how long did this take? And he's like, oh, only a couple days. And if you do the napkin math, and you're like a couple days times 1,000 assets, it's thousands of days that we don't have if we're launching the game in 2022. So how are we going to do this? And we were really excited because we had such a unique opportunity with Marvel Snap to dig into this untapped community from a games perspective, which is all of the artists of the Marvel comic book industry. There's tons of great Marvel games out there, but not as many were leveraging all of these amazing artists that already existed in the Marvel community, and we said, we're going to do it differently. We are going to partner with all of these artists who literally created or drew some of these heroes for the very first time and have them do artwork for our game. And so that's exactly what we did. We built out a style guide to start partnering with all of these comic book artists and say, this is our target. What do you think about trying to build it? We're going to learn from this experience together. And when we sent out this style guide and started working with some of these comic book artists, we learned really quickly, ooh, this isn't going to work. A lot of comic book artists kind of specialize in different things. You might have somebody who's a sketcher or an inker or a colorist. There's not as many people who do like the full throughput of an art piece. And we learned that kind of the hard way. We're like, oh no, we're going to have to send this piece to an inker first and then send it over to a colorist. And are they going to have the same style? Are we going to be able to achieve this dream of having this Wolverine that Jamaro painted? Is this something that we can replicate? And we were like, maybe this isn't it. There was a little mild moment of panic, like, oh, we kind of got to go back to the drawing board. It was okay, because what we did from here was actually take it to this version of Wolverine that's in the game today. And I'm really glad we went through that challenge and that pain point of trying to do that really high fidelity version, because it brought us closer to our comic book roots. I feel like Marvel Snap is such a celebration of what the comic book industry has done for Marvel, and getting to go closer to the original style of the comic book art was really special for us. And so once we had this new target, we were like, let's try building this now and see if these artists can help build out this pipeline with us. And we were so excited to see that this worked out really well for us. So here was the first piece we got back from an external artist. This is from Joe Vereen, who inked Hulk in our game. And this was a really special moment again for the team to say, oh my gosh, I think we can actually do this. Like, we were able to successfully partner with an artist. They were able to nail the style that we're excited about. We can do this at scale now. Like, let's just keep ramping up the pipeline that we built. And it was a really special moment. And this unlocked the ability for us to start exploring variants as well. So as many of you who have played Marvel Snap know, there's tons of different versions of all of the heroes in the game. So we kind of had this base style we got to explore, as well as all these alternate styles. And so here's a bunch of versions of Hulk that we're really excited about. And we got to explore not only new heroes and villains, but new variations of these heroes and villains as well. And so in addition to building out just the 2D artwork that we were looking at before, we knew we wanted to take it to a different level in Marvel Snap, which was really bring these characters to life. We wanted these cards to feel not like these 2D flat images in the game, but like a 3D tangible, like living and breathing thing. And so this is a target that our art director, Jamaro, started exploring for us to be able to see how can these characters kind of come to life inside of the game. And I think as many of you know, Marvel heroes are so epic, so massive. There's no way they can be contained by a mere card frame. So one of the first things we started to explore was Thanos breaking out of his card frame. We were really excited by these concepts. And so we continued to iterate and find different styles for these card frames that were going to continue to amplify that experience of that 3D vibe. And we ultimately got to this target, and we said, hey, we're really excited about this. We built this potential. Can we continue to build this out? Can we make 1,000 of these? Like, what's that experience going to be like? We knew we needed some tools and technology to be able to be successful in this space. And so we were so excited to be able to use Unity to kind of build out those tools inside of the tool itself to allow us to bring all of this 2D art to life. And so we took this concept to our technical art director and said, hey, we want to build a tool that will take this concept to life in the game. What do you think about exploring something like that? And he's like, no problem. Let's bring Hulk to life. And that's exactly what we did. So this is our very first iteration of Hulk, who's coming to life. So he breaks out of the frame. He's 3D and height mapped. He parallaxes. He's got a little bit of animation, like the rubble crumbling behind him. And the whole team was like, awesome. This is so cool. When can I experience this in the game? And I was like, this is awesome, but this is terrifying. How are we going to do this 1,000 times? And we immediately took this target and said, OK, let's figure out our strategy. We have a really small team here at Second Dinner, so how do we build tools that amplify the small team that we have? How do we build tools that unlock the capabilities for 2D artists to be able to take a 2D asset and make it feel 3D using Unity? And so we built something that we lovingly call CAT, which is our card art tool. And the CAT was very helpful for our team. to be able to work inside of Unity. They could sculpt, height map, animate these characters inside of the tool, and then look at it directly in the tool and experience it exactly how the players will. So instead of having to hop between a bunch of tools, do a bunch of importing, experience the card, and then go, oh, I have to tweak something, and then go hop back out into all those other tools, they could all do it inside of Unity. And so it made everything very seamless and easy for us to kind of learn and quickly iterate. So we had that target before of Thanos breaking out of the frame. We had Hulk that we were really excited about. We had that target. So we had our artists internally use the tool, rapidly iterate and improve that tool so that we could build something that we could share with external vendors. Just like we got to partner with all these amazing comic book artists in the industry, we also got to partner with some amazing studios to what we call catify our cards, using the cat tool to bring them to life, do that parallax, height map, and 3D vibe. And so we're really grateful to Unity to be able to build these tools so easily inside of Unity and then share that with these vendors. We learned a lot by continuing to build cards. Psylocke was another card that we built very early on, and we learned we wanted more flexibility for animations. She's got all these cool special effects that Hulk didn't have. And so we continue to improve that tool to a point where we were ready to share it with these external vendors. And it was really easy to do in Unity. We were able to slice out just a chunk of our game, that cat tool, and share it with external partners and easily onboard and ramp them up to using the tool. And I think what was really special for me personally about this was we got to partner with studios all around the world to work on these cards. And whether or not they spoke English, which was the primary language our team was speaking, it didn't really matter because we could screen share over Zoom, it was the pandemic, and show each other how we were painting, how we were sculpting. It didn't matter. We didn't have to speak the same language. We could just be using that same shared tool to bring these cards to life. And so just like we built a style guide for all of the 2D art we were building with the comic book artists, we built a style guide for Cat too. We learned a lot about different layers, how to sculpt, how to height map, and really bring these cards to life. We had a lot of bugs and issues that we learned about. We continue to improve the tool over time. And so this was a really valuable pipeline that we locked in very early on in our development and started to improve and ramp up to bring all of these assets to life. And I am so proud of what the team did, because we worked with over 80 external artists, along with our art team of 8 people internally at Second Dinner, to make thousands of assets by the time we launched Marvel Snap. All right, Yong's got some more stories for you all.
Thank you so much, Nicki. So we talk about the need to iterate, right? Iterate on the game, iterate on your workflow, try things. Build it, experience it, then you know what to do next. But some things are hard to iterate fast. It's not always obvious how to iterate on something. But if it's something important to the player experience, we need to figure out a way. I'll give you an example. How do players unlock cards? With Marvel Snap, we wanted to do something innovative, where a new player unlocks cards in a collectible card game, unlike other collectible card games that have come before. Instead of just opening a bunch of packs of cards and saturating your collection right away, we wanted to create a game where players can unlock cards over time, over many months, and experience the joy of exploring new cards at a comfortable pace. But it's really challenging to iterate on an experience that takes 30 to 60 days to really play out. It would mean that we would need to have people play testing the game consistently during those periods of time. That would also mean that we would have to have persistent accounts and an environment where, it stably continues to exist 30 to 60 days at a time. This is where friends and family launches were also super helpful. We use these launches to create a bigger pool of players, and bless some of those early play testers. I was always surprised when I tried to play a game at 11 p.m. and I matched with one of our friends. So thank you to all those folks. And it also gave us an opportunity to make sure we operate that environment in a stable way and fix bugs and support for 30 to 60 days. So you can play every day, right? Whether you're in between work or going to the bathroom, you could play and actually organically progress and experience what it's going to be like for our players over those weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks. And this is really powerful. You have to experience some of these things firsthand. And if these experiences are going to take 30 to 60 days, you better get going early. You're going to run out of time. We tried a lot of wild ideas for how you unlock cards, focusing on learning and less on getting it right. We knew we were not going to get it right. We just didn't know enough. Whenever we were curious about an idea, our mantra was, just try it. Yes, thank you. Someone got it over here. Here's a picture of a very early idea for unlocking cards. It was a hero collecting minigame with its own mechanic, separate from playing cards on locations. Don't try to make sense of it. I barely understood it when we first deployed it. How about this one? What is this crazy thing? What is this thing? I think that's supposed to be Asgard. Up in the little fluff there, that's supposed to be Cloud, and there's like a rainbow swirl. I think that's supposed to be Bifrost. This was a version where we envisioned players traveling across the Marvel multiverse, meeting and recruiting heroes and villains. I have a canvas print of this. I printed out at the office just to remind ourselves of all the crazy things we tried. And even though some of these early ideas in Friends and Family 1 and 2 were very different from where we ended up, we had key learnings each time we made updates. And after we played with it for many days. One of the biggest learnings from this exercise was that we were falling into a very typical developer trap. We're all game developers in here. What do we love doing? We love making video games. So, you're in the process of making one game, and it's very easy to start making multiple games at the same time, because that's what we love doing. All right? So I think we're all guilty of this. And I think, going through this exercise, though, and recognizing that it's starting to happen, that was really important for us. We kept getting feedback through friends and family that our players were loving playing Marvel Snap, the core of Marvel Snap. And the core of it is playing cards on locations. But we kept trying to build something totally separate. Maybe it's an RPG experience or something else, as a requirement to unlock cards. This recognition allowed us to renew our laser focus on making the core of Marvel Snap amazing, playing cards on locations, and get out of the player's path to having fun. That's where we're doing this. We want our players to have an awesome experience. We can always go make more games later. If you want a small team to achieve greatness, you must stay absolutely laser focused on what's most important to your game. Figuring out what this laser focus should be, that's the critical part of your early journey. By Friends and Family 3, this looks more sane. We took a lot of learnings, and we had a lot about pacing of card unlock, the order in which we should unlock cards. We removed all the extra fluff that was getting in the way of Marvel Snap's fun, and streamlined how a player unlocks cards. You play games, which lets you complete missions, which gives you credits. Use those credits to unlock more cards, and then play more Marvel Snap you love and enjoy. Let's not get in your way. And this tight and streamlined loop became the core of the metagame we ship at launch. It's about what you see in our build now. It would be easy to think, hey, wasn't it just a colossal waste of time to try all that other stuff? Efficiently trying all the things that didn't work out was a key part of our learning process. It allowed us to arrive at something innovative and more elegant that feels awesome for our players. And we could only do that as we got smarter. All right, it's a production talk, so another schedule. So Nicki and I talked a lot about how getting smarter, about the fun of Marvel Snap the game, how we were getting a lot smarter about the fun of Marvel Snap the game, how we make content, we were getting way smarter by making a lot of mistakes, and how we were getting way smarter about launching and operating the game. So by the time we did 3 revs of that, that's like a year and a half, feels like a long time. I mean, we must be getting pretty close to be able to go public, right? Right, so like Friends and Family 4, right? You should be ready to ship, maybe? How do we find out? Just try it, yes. Build a shippable game, try shipping it, probably make a mistake, get smarter, right? So the year was 2021, it was May, T minus 1.5 years. It's T minus to running out of time. I mean, we had a Marvel contract to keep in mind. We released Friends and Family 4. We gave this one a special name. We call this one Alpha. Right? The reason we called it Alpha was we wanted to be super crystal clear to everybody on the team that we are trying to make, the goal of FF4 is to make a publicly shippable build. Imagine sharing this build with the world. What happens when you tell the team, this is the build that's going public? It kind of looks like people panicking a little bit. It makes everything feel hyper real. It's no longer theoretical. Everyone's hopes and dreams about what they want to share with the world comes to surface. It's a really emotionally challenging moment. Everybody rushes to push things into the build that they deeply care about. Right? This is the build that the world's going to see. This was our Friends and Family 4 build. We crammed in a new meta system that's involving Infinity Stones. There's like 6 of them over there on the right. I don't even remember how they work anymore. We jammed in a new game mode, a battle mode. It's an awesome way to play Marvel Snap. We actually released it recently, a couple months ago. Super awesome. But instead of playing single game of Snap with each other, this is a game mode where you play multiple games of Snap against the same opponent. Very fun way to play, but also super jammed in this build. We tried working on a new concept called weekly rank. Again, I don't remember how that works anymore. Where did the cube go? Look at that picture on the left side. What is that purple stuff? I think that's supposed to be an Infinity Stone. Was Friends and Family 4 shippable? Not even close. Not even close. It's slightly terrifying. Trying to make a publicly shippable build helped us crystallize all the way we are still falling short. Overcomplicated meta system, half-baked battle mode, localization, tutorial, polish, optimization, bugs. We can't even ship legally in some countries yet. Alpha forced us to reach what I think is the most important moment in any project. It's the stop adding more stuff moment. All too often, this moment comes too late in the project. It puts intense pressure on the team at the very end. Oh my Lord. Okay, I'm looking at the clock. We'll get going. So our goal with Alpha was to create this pressure at a moment where failure was acceptable, so that we have an opportunity to learn and react after we give it a try. So we knew at this moment that it's not that we had to add more stuff. We had a lot of awesome things in the build. It was time to let things go. and concentrate all of our effort into the core things that makes Marvel Snap shine. So let's wind it back. Let's try one more time. 2021 December, we give it another shot. T-minus 10 months. Not to freak you out, but time is running out. Let's try again. Publicly launchable build. This time, in the 6 months between Alpha and Friends and Family 5, we put all of our focus on putting together a plausibly public launchable build. Alpha really gave us that focal lens. Legal compliance, third-party login integration. I know it's not sexy. We got to get it done. Tutorial, in-game, out-of-game. First-time user experience. This is our new player season pass. We streamlined our competitive system around a straightforward rank system. We tried launching our seasonal content for the first time. It's like some of the content release. Notably, we learned how to make cardbacks better, so we improved that significantly by the time of launch. So once we shipped, so was Friends and Family 5 shippable? And the answer was heck yes, right? 4 really gave us the focal lens. We put all our effort into making FF5 shippable. And once we shipped Friends and Family 5, the proof was in the pudding. We had a build that was public launch ready. And so starting 2022, we were very comfortable fully committing to May announcement and the October launch date. And this allowed our marketing team and other publishing efforts to ramp up in confidence and execute an awesome global launch strategy. Right? We knew we had a build we could ship because we had it in our hands. This is almost identical to the roadmap I shared with the team in January of 2022. This was our battle. This was our roadmap to how we're going to get to global launch. We were really stressing the fact that by the time we got to Friends and Family 5, we were already at 2,000 invites. When we did our technical closed beta, that was just 5 times more people, 10,000 people. Right? And then when we commercially launched in the Philippines in June, our expected inflow, we imagined, was in the range of about 100,000 max. This gave us confidence. We knew the very same thing we've been doing over the past 3 years is a thing we have to do to be successful during soft launch. And so milestone after milestone, we had a lot of additional learnings. We continued our iterative process. Some of you may remember Nexus events. That was a painful lesson, but it was a really valuable one as we're trying to learn more about how to add new cards into the system. And eventually, we got to a successful global launch where all those years of muscle memory built in made it just feel like another Tuesday. And global launch was just the beginning. We're continuing our cycle of building something, sharing it with our players, observing how they play, and getting smarter about what to do next. We put in a lot of investment into our data and analytics pipeline, leveraging tools like Databricks and Looker to build a tight loop. We try something new, see how players behave, get smarter. All right, so in this talk, Nicki and I shared with you second inner team's experience developing and launching Marvel Snap. At the core of what we do is build, play, get smarter, prioritize getting smarter over getting it right, encourage your team members to try things, and allow them to make mistakes. That's the only way you learn. And when in doubt, just try it. I hope our story is helpful in your journey. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Go have fun. Thank you.